I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will you please rise and we'll say the pledge together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel? Yes. Mrs. Rugola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann? Yes. Dr. Bennett?
Yes, thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last two meetings, February 11th and March 7th.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Rugola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Were there any corrections? Seeing none, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Rugola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel? Yes. Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. What a great-looking group. And it's very nice to be here at Columbia, so thank you, Mr. Thompson, for having us. And we'll look forward to having a tour later on, I believe. So it's an exciting evening. And Mrs. Fiesel, did you have anything you'd like to?
Well, thank you, Mr. Thompson, too. It's nice. I've never been in a gymnasium this clean. It looks very, very nice. I would like to applaud our art students, and I am so amazed. If you go on the web, all of the artwork is there. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, it's very, very nice. A lot of different mediums, different subjects. Also, it's an exciting time to be a jacket. I'm just looking now at the Gateway Project brochure, and that's very nice. And the Booster Stadium project. And as I think about this, it's hard to believe that we're this far in the school year. And in a few weeks, we'll be graduating seniors and all of the student successes this year. And then we think about kindergartners starting registration process next month. So I guess just keep going, Jackets. Go Jackets.
Thank you. Ms. Rugola-Dye?
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for being here tonight. Wonderful to see the youngsters especially. And in one of my old haunts, and one of my former students who happens to be the principal here, of whom I'm very, very proud. As I was looking through our agenda, there is a young man who'll be coming to Mount Vernon City Schools from Slovakia next year. And as I was looking through his application, he said something towards the end that I think is extremely important. He said, English is the door to the world. And for us, public education is that door to the world. So without your help, our public schools would not be able to do what we are doing. And that Gateway Project is part of that. So thank you, everyone, for supporting our public schools, especially Mount Vernon City.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson?
Thank you to the Columbia staff for the preparations that went into hosting this tonight. And I would say that it's a special thing to be able to travel around to the different buildings and see the uniqueness of each building. This building is unique to me as well, and in many ways. Some of you might think, well, he's going to point to one particular situation, but the reality of it is I met my wife in kindergarten clear down there on the other end. And we have a picture of us at the same kindergarten table. So this is a unique school, all right?
Thanks for sharing that, Mrs. Getzmann.
Well, okay, I'll spill the beans, Mr. Thompson, since you did not. There is a direct connection. Andrew, Mr. Thompson, the principal here, is the son of our school board member, Mr. Thompson, and I know he's very proud, as he should be. So, congratulations, Andrew. I know you're doing great things here, and they have enjoyed your short term, and hope it's a very long term here at the school. So, welcome back, and you're doing a great job with great things here. I echo Mrs. Fiesel's thoughts earlier about our art students. I know we focus a lot on academics, but it's that whole student when we can acknowledge the arts as well. So that's exciting that we are having such success with that. I know we are entering in our spring sports. Unfortunately, our track and field group are taking a small minor hit as they're traveling their season this year. But we are gracious that they're supportive that we can endure our projects and have that up and running by the beginning of the year. So hats off to those coaches and all of those runners and field people that we can move forward with that project. So that's exciting.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started.
Well, I too would like to welcome you here to Columbia. It has been exciting to get a chance to get around all the buildings, and this will be an awfully neat night as well. Looks like we have lots of MVNU folks here. So is this part of class? Just raise your yes, part of class. All right, well, welcome. We're excited to have you here, and trust me, we're always looking for outstanding educators. Some of us who are getting a little gray-toothed and, we need to pass on to some really good educators, so we're glad you're here. Interestingly enough, as Mrs. Fiesel mentioned the Gateway Project, there's a lot of collaboration going on right now in Mount Vernon with MVNU. And so you're going to hear about in the coming days, weeks, some really neat things going on where MVNU and Mount Vernon City Schools and Mount Vernon City are working together to really make our community even more exciting and better. So welcome. We'll go ahead and get started, and Mr. Thompson, I'm going to turn over the mouse to you, and I know you have a behind-the-scenes commendation and then your building report.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. And we're going to do things a little bit different in terms of the order, because we will have a behind-the-scenes person that is honored, but it's going to be over the course of a video that we have to begin with. And the reason is our behind-the-scenes person chose Florida instead of here right now for us to be able to honor here. So we honored in video format. So before I do, though, I want to say, again, thank you for coming and being part of this. Haven't completed a year yet, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it and enjoyed coming back here to the elementary school in which I attended. This is where I went to elementary school. Have been a parent of a now second grade student, so the last 2 years as a parent, being able to see what this school has meant to her and to our family, and then now getting to see an inside glimpse into that. But we have some staff that are with us, and we have some students that are with us as well. And you'll meet some of those staff members, and you'll meet those students here in a little bit. But if you are a staff member or student, could you stand up for me, please, at this time? And if you could give them a hand, please, they work really hard. Okay. So with no further ado, I think we'll go ahead and start with this video, and then we'll finish it from there. Mr. Cedar, did I miss the link?
Play in the middle.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead and go back to that. Push play in the middle. Right, there you go. And blow it up.
We would like to extend a big welcome to our guests. When you walked through the doors of our school, you walked into the home of the best and the brightest. I'm Ella. And I'm Addison. We are part of the Columbia Daily News crew. We usually get to prepare the daily announcements for our school, but tonight is a special night. We get to share with you some awesome things about our school. Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Luna, Mrs. Scott, and Mrs. Miller all have some great things to share with you. And Mr. Thompson plans on taking you on a tour after this meeting, so make sure to stick around. But before we have them speak, we wanted to share with you who our school has chosen as our special volunteer. We would like to have Mrs. Ewers introduce our behind-the-scenes recipient. Mrs. Ewers?
Hi, Columbia. This is Mrs. Ewers, and I would like for you to meet a special friend. This is Miss Linda Davis.
Hi, everybody.
And she volunteers every week for our kindergarten students, and we just appreciate her so much. Would you like to tell us what you do when you come volunteer?
I love that. I do a variety of things. I get to work individually with the children on whatever the teachers would like help with. For instance, we read this morning. The ones are reading books already, and we work on numbers and writing and whatever is needed. But they are adorable, and I'm so grateful for this work with these amazing teachers and this wonderful school.
And this is actually her third year doing this for us.
Yes,
It's been wonderful, so we greatly, greatly appreciate her and we love her.
thank you.
Thank you for volunteering.
My pleasure.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Mrs. Yours. And thank you, Mrs. Davis, for all that you do for our school. We have so many things that we would love to share with you about our school. But to tell you all of the great things, we would be here all night. So, instead, we thought it would be best to show you a few pictures from this year. It's been said that a picture tells 1,000 words. You're right! So let's take a moment to hear our 1,000 words. sign off like we do on every announcement? Yes, members of the Board of Education and guests, we want to remind you to be somebody that makes everybody feel like a somebody. We hope you have a great, great day and learn tons. Because learning is fun. Grrr! We'd like to extend a big
All right, so we thought it might just be neat for you to be able to just get kind of a snapshot of the highlights of some of the events. There's been so many great things that have happened this year, and there's a lot of different areas that we could talk about. But we thought that our focus for this meeting and our presentation would just be on communication strategies that we use to engage families, beginning with students, and then with our academics, and then just our events and overall family engagement. So at this time, what I'm going to ask for Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Luna, Mrs. Scott, and I'd like for Ella and Addison to come up here, please, because they are the ones who are going to kind of talk about some of our strategies that we use. And before we get into kind of the academic side of things, which Mrs. Luna is going to talk about, I'd like to have Mrs. Miller introduce two of our guests and also just talk a little bit about morning announcements. One thing I missed when I played the video is the first slide would have taken you to our webpage. And on the left-hand column, if you decide to go to Columbia's webpage at some point, there's a morning announcement crew. I would highly encourage you to go check that out. The students do a great job, and it's a neat way to engage our students. So I'll let Ms. Miller introduce these guests.
Well, you guys already saw, they're famous. They're up there. This is Ella, and this is Addison, and they are two of my very best morning announcement crew. What we do with morning announcements is if a child has an A or B, they have the opportunity to be an anchor. If they have that kind of a grade, we try to keep it at that. And these two are just my professionals. I can trust them. When I'm in a crunch time, I can call on these two and they can do the morning announcements and do them really well. So what we like to do is just present to the kids every day what the announcements are. It's something they look forward to. The teachers can put it on while they're getting some things together. And the kids actually stay engaged because it's they're actually waiting for their pictures. When I walk around the school, they're begging me to take their picture, so they're begging on the morning announcements, just sitting there waiting that they're up there. But do you guys enjoy doing the morning announcements? Yeah. What's your favorite part about it?
Just being on and showing my friends that I'm morning announcements part of the school.
How about you, Ella?
I do the same as hers.
Yeah, they're famous in school. Kids see them and they think they're on TV. So we just really enjoy it. It's a great way to get communication out to the kids. And we do it the night before typically, so I can kind of put something in. The only bad thing is on snow days, it's messed me up totally. The lunch menu's always changed. But anything else you want us to share about morning announcements?
I don't think so. Ella, Addison, thanks for being here. If you can give him a hand, please.
They'd rather be behind the camera than in front of you, I think. Good job, guys.
All right, so the next part of the presentation is going to deal with the ways we, just one example of ways that we engage with families that really provide support with the academic side of things. In this case, Mrs. Luna, who teaches second grade, is going to share one way that she does that. So
I'm pulling Mrs. Atkinson, my teaching partner, up here to do my clicking for me. I'm Mrs. Vernon, and we teach second grade. We both went to Columbia here, and both of our children went to Columbia here, so we're really proud of Columbia. When we, 4 or 5 years ago, we were presented with making a web page, and we all just got in there and got our opening page, and then 2 years ago, we had to take a class. John Fry came in a couple different times, I think once a month, and helped us set up our web page. And Mrs. Atkinson and I, we were trying to figure out, okay, what can we do? What do the parents need? How can we make it better for them? So we have a page for upcoming important dates. When you click on our second grade web page, the first thing that comes up is important dates that they have to keep in mind and remember. And I love giraffes, so giraffes are a common theme throughout this. So you see our marked giraffe there. Another thing that we have is just our bios on there. It tells how many years of teaching we have. Between the two of us, we have more than 50 years of teaching experience. And just to give a more personal point to us, parents get on, they can see that Mrs. Atkinson went to The Ohio State University, so she talks Buckeyes all the time, and talked about your family. And I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. Put me in front of kids anytime. Put me in front of adults, and you'll see I'll get redder and redder, and I promise I won't pass out. I won't. But people will ask, and if you scroll on down, you'll see my big family there. Oh, sorry. And so they'll ask about marching band, because Lydia's in marching band. They'll ask what instrument she plays. And so it gives us some more personable. The next thing is newsletters. All of our newsletters are uploaded there. They can click on any of the newsletters. We have a weekly newsletter that goes home that just highlights what important things are coming up and what things to remember there. The next thing, during parent-teacher conferences last year and this year, we'd have parents that would come in and say, we hate this Common Core stuff because we're teaching different ways to teach that's different than we as parents. When we went through school, it was completely different. So I found this Mr. Cohen, who has a lot of free time on his hands, to make these videos, and it goes right along with our Go Math program. And he goes down through and he does the first couple ones.
Second grade Go Math lesson 7.1. And today we are working with dimes, nickels, and pennies.
So there, we just finished our time and money unit, so I'll be ready to put on the next set of Go Math videos. The next thing, it said a picture is worth 1,000 words. I have all of my pictures into different slideshows going from the first day of school all the way to our latest STEAM project on all the places you'll go that we just did last Friday. So, and I have parents that'll say, that's a really cool picture, can I have that picture? And I'll send them that picture. So and it takes a while to load, but there's slideshows there. And the last thing, which I'm still trying to get this one going, Hyperdocs was a class that we had to take last year, and it's an interactive spreadsheet of things. Animal habitats is a second grade standard, so I have different habitats, and it takes them to different videos. Sometimes I play some games with them, learning about the different animals and their habitats. So it went along with our Journeys unit. Penguins, just reading about the penguins and seeing the picture there, a flat picture really doesn't get it for some of them, but to be able to click on a video and see the penguin being able to propel itself out of the water and up on the ice, and they're just mesmerized when they're on one of these Hyperdocs. So I recently just found out how to get them on the parent web page so that parents can see also what we're doing and clicking on the different sites. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you sharing that. The last part of it is family engagement, and we're going to move to something that our building is doing across all grade levels called Class Dojo. It's not unique to Columbia in terms of, teachers use this across the district and throughout the state, and I'm sure the country as well, but this is a strategy that we use here, and I'm going to let Mrs. Scott kind of talk about how that came to be here and how it's used.
So what is Class Dojo? Basically, it is an implementation that we've used to implement PBIS, just to kind of take a positive approach on behavior and strategies. So the big thing that it's used for, students can earn points, they can also lose points, but the goal is for them to earn as many points as they can. That's not even my favorite part. My favorite part is the communication that can happen between the teachers and the parents. So how it's used, it's very similar to Facebook. So there's a feed on your story that you just can post to. Parents can actually like and comment things. You can also see how many people are viewing. So you can see that 10 people have viewed your most recent post. Another great part of it is there is a messaging system that looks very similar to your iPhone. So it just has the conversations that go back and forth between parents. There's a feature where I can just send out a message to everybody, hey, we have a spelling test tomorrow over these words, and it goes personally to each person into their inbox. There's just a parent quote down there. He was in class for 4 days, and because of Dojo, the mom felt like there had been more updates, pictures, and private messages than she'd ever seen before. Especially for our little kindergartners who go to kindergarten for the first time. Moms are at home worried about, oh, how's Johnny doing? What's he doing right now? So this is just an easy way to just kind of send out pictures. I have just a couple screenshots for you that you can see. The top left corner there is the messaging feature that you can go back and forth. Also shows when the message was read. So if we say, oh, I didn't get that message, it's been read here. Great for documentation. You can download that and print it out for parents or for ourselves. The second two on the right there's a picture of my kiddos working in class. And then Mr. Thompson just asked us to send out a survey. This was super easy, super quick. Just pass it out to the parents, they get it, and they can click the link there. This is an app, so they're gonna have an app on their phone. And then the next piece, we get updates. Often we get updates weekly, but this was our mid-year update, which is just really cool to see. 361 parents connected that are seeing this. And a lot of, nowadays we have broken homes, so we have moms, we have stepdads, we have aunts, we have uncles, we have grandmas, we have everybody connected, so everybody can see it. The positivity up there, you can see that 95% of our feedback has been positive, and that's what we're searching for with PBIS. Down at the bottom, my favorite part there, 2,824 messages sent back and forth between teachers and parents. Then we have 320 photos shared and 96 likes. Another great feature is Mrs. Miller has access to the Columbia page, so she's able to shoot things out just on the Columbia page that every parent that's involved in Columbia will see. So that's Class Dojo.
Just a comment on Class Dojo, because I've seen it in some other areas. These are all private. I mean, they have to be invited to this class.
Correct.
Not
Yes.
just anybody outside can get in and go look at everybody's Class Dojo.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott. Are there any questions that you have for our teachers or for me?
I'd just like to comment, it's so important to engage parents, and that you're doing a great job, so I really appreciate that, and I commend you for that. Because I know students do better when mom and dad feel that it's important, and when they're looking at what they're doing and keeping engaged, so great work, thank you.
I came into this, again, as a parent, into this job as a parent, so one of the reasons I wanted this to be highlighted tonight was just as a parent, knowing how engaged, or how engaging the teachers are with us and allowing us to be engaged with what's going on there too. So,
Don't take it for granted. That takes time for teachers to do that.
Yeah.
So we understand the commitment that they have in spending the extra time to make this work. So thanks, teachers.
So the remainder of this piece I'm going to save till the very end, right before we go on the tour. So for those that are able to stay, you're welcome to join us at that point once the regular session is complete of the board meeting. And so I can share a few other things at that time. Thank you, Mr. Cedar.
Kathy Ann here this evening?
I'll not here, but I'm...
Okay. And your name is? You want to introduce yourself?
You want to come up here to the podium for us?
Is this a microphone?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, I didn't know. Oh, okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Claire Mazey. I'm a senior at Mount Vernon High School. Typically, Halcyon Ann Thomas comes and speaks at these meetings. She's the class president of the senior class, but she could not make it tonight, so I'm here just to kind of fill everyone in on what's going on at Mount Vernon High School. I don't know if I already said this. I'm Claire Mazey. I'm the secretary of the senior class. And so within the high school right now, we're wrapping up winter activities, so sports and like certain clubs, and like have ended in the past couple of weeks. And like we've had a lot of success within our school this winter. Max Van Fossen placed, I believe, 7th in his weight class in wrestling, which is a really big accomplishment. He did that at the state level last weekend. We had our bowling team was new this winter, and it had been really successful. I believe we had several kids place or compete at districts. So and the numbers of that team were pretty big for a sports team that just started out, so that was good. The speech and debate team, their season just ended. We had 5 state qualifiers, 2 international extemporaneous speakers, 1 domestic extemporaneous speaker, and 1 public foreign team of 2 students that competed at state. And then we had 1 international extemporaneous speaker placed 12th in the whole state of Ohio, which is really impressive considering there's about 3,500 kids that do debate in Ohio. So that was pretty great. This past weekend, we had our forum show, which showcases different talents at the high school. We have dancers, singers, a band, and then there's kids that host a show, so they kind of get to show off like their comedy or other talents that they have. And that brought in over $7,000, and that cost helps subsidize the cost of the yearbook at the high school. Typically the yearbook would cost about $120, but because of the forum show, we're able to price it at $60, so it's more affordable for students, and that allows more people to be able to purchase one to help remember their high school years. Spring activities are starting up. I know that there was, I believe, a softball scrimmage today. There might have been a baseball scrimmage. And then I believe a week from this weekend is when actual games are starting up. So that's exciting. I think that student government is hosting a spring sport pep rally, and I'm in student government. So that's exciting because typically we do that for fall and winter, but this year we're like, well, we want to include all the spring sport athletes, so we're excited about that, to engage the whole school and support those athletes. Student government has started to plan prom, so it's just kind of the year's starting to wrap up, planning those end of year activities. And right now, student government, we've actually been working with other schools in the county, which is really great. On Wednesday, several students from Mount Vernon are going to a mock crash that students at Fredericktown are hosting. So it's like a simulated car crash to educate and inform about texting and driving and drinking and driving, and to bring awareness to those problems in our community, especially with teens. And so I think that that's really great that our school is able to engage with other schools in our Knox County community. Currently, right now, with a lot of clubs and even sports teams, the new leaders are being picked. I know in Key Club, they just inducted their new leaders. With Yearbook, we're working on who's going to be the editor next year. I know the NHS has their elections for leadership next week. So it's exciting to see these underclassmen stepping up and taking new leadership positions within our high school. As already mentioned earlier, the entrance is now gone and we're getting a new one, so that's very exciting for the upcoming athletes. It is kind of unfortunate for the current track athletes, but it will be a good improvement for the school, and I know that those bathrooms needed updated, so that's good. From a senior's perspective and looking to future plans, college, or whatever that is, the guidance department has definitely been helping. I know that if you haven't had a talk with the people at the high school and the guidance department, they'll call you down and talk to you and help you figure out what you're going to do next year, and they've been really encouraging, and I feel like I've engaged with them a lot more as a senior, and they are truly such a blessing to our school. And I know that they've been working hard on kind of the end of the year awards for students. That's the Kiwanis Awards that recognize the top 10% in the upper classes, and then they recognize a student for each course in the school, and I know that that is something that's kind of being decided right now. And then also the Community Foundation Scholarship deadline was actually just last week, so a lot of seniors have been working on that at the high school. The Teacher of the Year was just announced last week, and that went this year to Mrs. Aubiel. She's the current director of the band, and she had to step up this fall because the former band director had to quit because of family obligations. And she's just a really great person. She teaches band. She's rather young and has a lot of responsibility on her shoulders. She does piano lab. She's really engaging with the school and encouraging of all students, specifically the musicians. And she's just a really great and fun teacher who truly loves music. So it was really great to see her get that honor. Student government is also kind of starting to plan graduation. So because Thursday is the end of our third 9 weeks, so we're almost done with this school year. And so that's pretty exciting. And I believe that is all I have to say about what's going on at the high school. But if anyone has any questions or comments, I could probably answer those to the best of my ability.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Claire, could we be so bold to see what are your plans next year? Have you got that figured out yet? Or
I'm not quite sure where I'm going to college next year, but I plan on majoring in diplomacy. And I'm pretty excited about that. But graduating high school is definitely bittersweet. Definitely very thankful for everything the teachers and my students at Mount Vernon High School have done for me, and everything you all have done for the Mount Vernon City Schools. I'd just like to thank all of you. Thank you.
I know, Claire, you have done a lot for the high school as well, so thank you for all that you have done and all of your engagement and your activities, because I know you're very involved, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Nesbitt here.
I'm filling in for Darcy.
Okay. Did you have anything you'd like to
She said
say?
we're fine.
All right. And Mr.
See
Lang.
Mike.
Okay. All righty, so we're,
Participation.
we had one public participation. Lauren Graff.
Hi, so I'm Lauren Graff. I'm a junior neuroscience major at Kenyon, and I'm taking a class on behavioral neuroscience of adolescents. And so one of the requirements of the class is actually to pick a topic that's of interest and present the scientific findings on that to the community. And so I've chosen to focus on physical activity in children and adolescents, which is like a big part of our world today. So children and adolescents are not getting the amount of physical activity that they need to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Exercising helps to keep both our body and our brains healthy and functioning at high levels. So the CDC recommends that students in elementary through high school have at least a 20-minute recess along with physical education and physical activity in the classroom each and every day. So school takes up a lot of adolescents' time during the day, and for the most part, it requires them to remain seated. However, physical activity has actually been shown to improve adolescents' performance in schools. So I'm here to report on just the neuroscientific findings behind those and the ways in which we can improve their activity during the day. So students who achieve higher fitness levels have also been shown to achieve higher scores academically. So Chomitz of Tufts University and her colleagues tested children in Cambridge public schools in 4th through 8th grade. And they compared their fitness level, which was determined by passing 5 fitness tests, and to their academic achievement, which was measured by their MCAS mathematics and English scores. And the researchers concluded that there was a significant positive relationship between the number of fitness tests passed and the achievement on the exams. So the more fitness tests passed, the better the students did on the exams. And I believe they graded them on like a well, above average, excellent, those scales. And so this kind of leads us to how might physical activity have a positive impact on increased cognitive function. So first, executive functioning refers to higher level cognitive processing, which is associated with goal-directed behavior. And these includes inhibition, flexibility, and working memory. So the prefrontal cortex, or the PFC, it's really important in an area which is associated with executive functioning. Tuckman and colleagues provided evidence that children in elementary and middle schools who participated in running for 30 minutes for 3 to 5 days per week had increased improvement in creativity and flexibility based on improvements based on the alternative uses tests and the Torrance tests of creative thinking. And then Davis et al. Had children participate in aerobic games such as running games, basketball, soccer, things like that, for either 20 or 40 minutes. And then they measured their executive function capabilities as compared to a controlled group who did not participate in those activities. And the results were improved performance in executive functioning tasks, which was measured by the cognitive assessment system, along with an increase in mathematic achievements and increased PFC activation for children who participated in those games. So not only does exercise help to improve higher level cognitive functioning, but studies from Holmes and Prague have shown that aerobic exercise increases regulation of growth factors in the brain, including the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which is really important in the neurogenesis or growth of brain cells, particularly in the hippocampus. And the hippocampus has been known really to be associated with memory. And so when there's greater amounts of BDNF in the brain, that means there's more hippocampal cells, which then helps to facilitate learning and memory a lot better. So based on these findings, it's evident that at least 30 minutes of physical activity is crucial for children and can really help them to attain high academic achievements. So schools need to find ways and time to integrate physical activity into the school day, as well as promote active play activities outside of schools. So this can include creating lesson plans that gets them outside, playing a game that involves some sort of physical activity, and continuing physical education year-round, and all the way through high school. And the new athletic facility, I think, is really going to help with that and give those kids an extra resource. I've heard, great things about it so far, so I'm really excited to see what that does. And these are all just ways that we can get students moving, which will lead to optimal brain function and increased academic performance. So thank you so much.
There are no board items for discussion. No additions or deletions.
We have no additions and deletions. I have a number of items of information in the superintendent section. Number one is something Claire did mention. Commencement, quite frankly, is around the corner for the class of 2019. It'll be Sunday, May 26th. We'll be on the Kenyon College campus, and we'll be at the CAC Center. So a very nice event last year. It's hard to believe we're already sneaking up to that time, but another class will be graduating soon. Item number 2 is an item for information. We'll have a special board meeting on Wednesday, April 10th. That'll be at Twin Oak Elementary beginning at 6 p.m. This will be a joint meeting between Mount Vernon City Council, Mount Vernon Nazarene University, and Mount Vernon City Schools, where we really will kind of kick off and share the many things that we're doing both collaboratively and individually to really enhance our facilities and enhance the community. So it'll be kind of an exciting time for us to sit around with a larger group of folks to see the exciting things that are happening. Item B, recommended items for board approval. Under this section, we have only one item for tonight, and it is a home community school students for participation in athletics.
Hey, thank you. I would entertain a motion then to approve the home community school participation.
I'll be glad to make the
Thank you, Mrs. Fiesel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Fiesel? Yes. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann? Yes. Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. For success this evening, I'm just going to focus on the last article, the cell phone bans don't curb cyberbullying. This was a pretty interesting article. Schools that allow students to access cell phones have lower rates of cyberbullying than those that ban the devices, according to the research. And in 2016, they did a school survey on crime and safety. Over 3,000 students participated in grades K through 12, and that was the sample size. And they found that in 2010, 8% reported they were involved in cyberbullying or had been a victim of that. And by 2016, that figure had risen to 12%. Then they also compared those students who participated in schools or were members in schools where the rules were in place to ban cell phones. And that was 16% versus where cell phone use was allowed was 10%. So that's where they're getting their statistics. And however, when race and ethnicity were broken out, that didn't hold true for schools with a majority of non-white students. And I found this pretty interesting because in the National Review this month, March 25th, the French government has announced a complete ban on cell phones in elementary and intermediate state-run schools effective next year. The ban will apply not just in classrooms, but everywhere. Students will not even be able to check their phones between classes or during recess. A parents group opposes the ban, while educators seem split. Half of them fear that they're going to be turned into gendarmes to enforce the policy, while the rest welcome anything that might force the students to focus on their work. Other arguments, pro and con, can be made, mostly depending on the circumstance, and that's why instead of issuing edicts from Paris, the best course could be to let local teachers, parents, and residents decide each school's policy on their own. And then this was clever, as they said, but the land that invented laissez-faire rarely practices it. So I thought that was kind of went along with it. The other article is on what we've talked about before about changing the start times of schools. So we've discussed that before, so I won't take any more time. Interesting articles. Thank you.
You know, it is an interesting article, and there's always a flip sides to all of those things. Before we had Chromebooks, you know, we had cell phone bans in Mount Vernon for a long time. And then we took away the ban, and we allowed students to use their phones in a positive way. And then all of a sudden, we became one-to-one, and we got Chromebooks, so we even found ourselves second-guessing, do we need to have all these phones all over the place? Because they're now maybe not for an educational use, because every student has this. And so we found ourselves asking lots of questions relative to this. We have currently in our high school and in our middle school, teachers will put up on the door as you walk in, whether today's a no cell phone zone or not. And basically it's turn it off while you're in my class. You've got a Chromebook. And so we're trying to kind of be somewhat of that hybrid in the middle. Too much of anything, even a good thing, can be a problem. And so we find ourselves tackling those same issues even today. So I found that interesting. Under recommended items for board approval, we have a whole lot of different things going on here. We've got 2 overnight extended field trips. FCCLA will be doing a state leadership conference. The softball team will be heading up to LaGrange. That's up around Elyria for some games. And as been mentioned here previously, it's always neat to really bring in some cultural diversity. And so we welcome foreign exchange students, and we have 2 who have signed up to be part of Mount Vernon City Schools next year. Again, 1 from Slovakia and 1 from Italy. And those are always wonderful kind of cultural experiences. So items 1 through 3 for your approval.
Okay, would entertain a motion to approve those items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Wood. Mr. Thompson?
I'll take second to that.
Second it, okay, thank you. I thought it was also interesting, the student from Slovakia mentioned he was afraid of bears, which I thought was, we don't have bears in Mount Vernon, although where my daughter lives in Connecticut, they do have bears come into their yard sometimes. But he also had pictures showing he would bike into the mountains, so that's why he had this fear of bears, I'm sure. But we can assure him we have no bears in Mount Vernon. So, okay, are there any questions or comments? Okay, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Rolladai?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, Fiscal Services. Lots tonight.
Yeah, a lot of things, so I'll be quick. I have no items for information listed here, but I did want to let the board know that our tax anticipation notes were sold, the bonds were sold, and we did receive the funds last Thursday, I believe. So those funds are in there. Now that's PI, borrowing against our PI money, and those will start to be paid back. An interest payment this summer, and then a principal and interest payment next year. So that money arrived, and we thank all the folks that worked with us on that. The first item is the financial report. That's the typical report that I give you every month. The first page, you'll see, scroll down. You may never see a $22 million balance in this again, but that's because the money for the construction of the field house and the bus garage, and actually not even the money from the tax anticipation note is in there. So, and we received our tax money for this first half of this calendar year. So that is a large balance, and we have places for all of it to go. So the next item is the monthly report that shows you how we ended up the month of February. As you can see, I was projecting $15,079,000, $788 for our real estate taxes, and we collected slightly more than that, which is good. I projected at 1.6 million, or 1,670,649, and we collected 1,759,000, again, higher than we projected. I always like to see that. The state foundation is right where it should be. Actually, we're a little bit behind on what that's going to be, because we have, I think we have 8 or 9 more payments coming in, so we'll be okay on that one. The restricted grants, again, that one's right where it should be. Property tax allocation, that's the rollback that we get from the state. We get half of that in August, and half of that we should get in probably April. We'll get the rest, so that's good. So if you look, we're about 80% on our total revenues. On our expenses, we're at 64% for salaries. We should be at 67, so that means that we're good on that. We're a little bit behind what we thought we'd spend, which is good on the expenditure side. The only one on there that, and of course it's a small amount, but our capital outlay, I only budgeted $33,000 because we do use our PI money for most equipment that we purchase in the district. But we also give the principals money to spend in their building budgets, and some of them budget equipment for that too. So we've gone over a little bit, so when we do the May forecast update, I'll probably have to increase that by a small amount. I think I checked today, and I think we have another, I think 5,000 or 6,000 in building budgets for capital outlay that could still be spent this year, so that may come out. So that's that for that page. If you want to scroll down the next page, there's our investments. As of the end of February, we're at 156,000, which is very good. Happy about that. And then the rest of that report, of course, is the reports that come off of the system. So you're free to look at those at your convenience. And then the next item matches up with the investments. If you want to look at that, the meter report. Come on. No, that's not it, right. We gotta go back to the second. The meter report of investments, number 2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I got this from the folks that were investing some of our money, not all of it, but I thought I'd like to have you look at this and maybe before the next meeting, let me know if you have any questions about it. Right now, they have $3.1 million of our money, and they're investing it in those items that you can see there, the maturity distribution. If you want to scroll down, you can see the accounts, the securities are purchased, the securities sold and redeemed. They've got sort of an overall balance there and activities and so forth that you can take a look at. The interest year to date on just from the money that they've had is $43,769. So that's good. And then there's some, there it shows the actual securities that we're investing in. So you see Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, Ally Bank. So because we're a school district, we're very restricted. We can't and don't want to invest in anything risky at all because it's not our money, it's the public's money, and we have to make sure that they're in something really safe. So take a look at that, and before the next month's meeting, if you have any questions or you'd like any more details or any more activity, any way to show the difference in the activity, we can take a look at that as well. The next item is the resolution accepting rates. We get this from the county auditor every year, and if you scroll down, they will show, they send this to me already completed, except for, yeah, there we go. That just shows the amount to be derived from the mills outside the 10 mil limitation. It shows the actual rates, this is the valuations of the rates, and that comes from the Budget Commission after we send our tax budget over. So basically this is just something for us to look at and make sure it looks right to us, and then we send it over to them, and that approves for them to give us money again starting in July for the next taxes. I just have to have your approval on that. The last two amounts, you can click on either one of those, they're basically the same. One of them is the Certificate of Estimated Resources, the other one is the appropriations. Had to modify those because the $23,105 that we added for appropriations to the $499 miscellaneous state grant, that is the safety grant that we got from the state. And at the beginning of the fiscal year, we didn't have it, and we didn't know for sure if we were going to get that. So I had to add that amount. That's money that we got in, and so obviously I have to put it in the certificate and then also in the appropriations in order for us to spend it. And the ECSE is a federal grant, and we got a little bit more money in that than I thought we were going to get. So that's $9,000. So we're just going to update the certificate that I send over, which tells the auditors how much money we're expecting to get. And then the appropriations on number 4, if you want to look at that, that's similar amounts. That means that gives me the, 21,000. That gives me the authorization to spend that money. If we don't have it authorized in the appropriations, then we can't spend it. So that's what that Fund 499 is, the safety grant. And we didn't have anything in there before because there wasn't any money coming in on that fund this time. So those are changes, and then we have donations. We have one donation to Dan Emmett Titan Pride Club after school program from the First Congregational Church, and they've donated some food for their after school program for 2 months. And we have one memorial book. The title is I Am Sonia Sotomayor, and it's in memory of Ora Jane Baer, the mother of Ed Baer, food custodian at Wigan Street, and it will go in the Wigan Street Library. That's all.
All right, thank you. I would entertain a motion then to approve those items under Part B.
So moved.
I'm not sure who was first.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Thank
Jody.
you,
I
Mr.
apologize.
Gulladye, and would you like to
I'll
second?
take the
Thank you,
second.
Mrs. Getzmann. And were there any questions on any of the items?
I do. A couple. One, Judy, you really always appreciate this question. So are we done with casino funds for this year, or do we just get the one?
We have gotten all of our casino funds for this year, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you see is
What we get? Okay. All right. Okay. And then you mentioned earlier, I've been kind of curious, relative to the budgets that we set forth to all the different buildings for the principals to administer, I guess, right?
Yes.
So how much is that per, is it different from?
We do it based on a
Yeah.
per pupil basis, so
Okay.
to be fair across the district, we start, I believe, with $80 per pupil. And then we add some specials, some of our Unified Art special monies in there. So if you're a bigger school, obviously you take that 80 and you multiply it times that number. And it seems to have been the fairest way to distribute it throughout the district.
And what's our intentions then, is how that is to be spent? Is that for
Well,
paper or what?
we give them the money and they have options of, the 400s are purchase services, so if they want to spend it on having a speaker come in and talk to the kids or something like that, any kind of purchase service, yes, they buy their paper out of that. Any other kinds of supplies that they need that they supply for the kids. And then the equipment is one of the things that they have the authorization to do. So we give them the dollar amount, and then they tell us which line items they want to spend it in. And then my assistant, Lynette, she tracks that. And sometimes they'll get into the year and they'll say, you know what, I don't think I'm going to buy any equipment. Could you move that over? So then we'll move it over. Most of the buildings don't spend it all, and we don't let them keep it. So that's a tribute to them. They don't spend it just because they have it, because they know that at the end of the year we wipe it out and start over again. But they're very good with it.
Yeah, I knew they were being very cautious with it and careful. I just never was real clear in my mind as to exactly where, such as replacing furniture or whatever.
Furniture and things like that, they would generally come to us on using our permanent improvement funds. So they could certainly come and talk to us about that. Sometimes a building may decide, or principal may decide to use some of their building budget for that as well. We have a good number of our principals that will take a portion of their building budget and then give it to the teachers and say, hey, every teacher has X amount, and you buy some building kinds of supplies and things. So we try to allow them as much flexibility as we can.
Awesome.
And at the same time, we have responsibility for some of those bigger items.
Thank you.
And the way that works is that when a requisition comes through, the principal approves it, and then Bill approves it. Before it comes a purchase order, I see it. And because I'm the one of those three people who actually know what the account numbers are, if I look and I see something that I have a question about or whatever, I can put that right on the requisition. And the other funds that the principals have it's called an 018 fund, and that's like proceeds from pictures, when they sell pictures, or they get donations, those kinds of things go into a fund, and those can be spent on the kids. That's really spent on fun things for the kids, get-togethers, parties, speakers, those kinds of things. So,
Very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And our legislative liaison.
Thank you. Links on B and C is just for your information. The first link on the legislative conference material, there's a lot of new bills that have been introduced, and some of them are carryovers from last year. And since there's so many, I'll just focus on one. HB 127 would prohibit the creation of new academic distress commissions. This bill would not affect commissions already formed. So for instance, the academic commission in Youngstown would not be dissolved. And this is in response to that HB 70, which was enacted in 2015. HB 70 requires the appointment of a chief executive officer who has substantial powers. A commission can be formed for any district receiving 3 consecutive years of an F on the state report card. HB 70 could also result in changes to collective bargaining agreements and possible mayoral appointments of the district board. And this has continued to be a concern throughout all of Ohio's public schools. And I did send off a letter to our representative, Rick Carfagna, concerning this and urging him and the rest of the legislature to approve HB 127 so we can avoid another takeover of our public schools, which takes money away from our taxpayers who have sent us to do their bidding. So anyway, if you have any other questions about all those other bills on there, you can feel free to ask me, or if you have any ideas or questions about HB 127. Okay.
I don't have a question about that, but I don't remember the number of the bill. I think it was a House bill where they're proposing $250 for teachers to be able to deduct from their taxes.
Yes,
if they
first through the state.
For
And
the
then,
state taxes.
yes, and then there was another one, I think, that was introduced for federal, I believe.
And I know we have lots of teachers that do spend some of
Yes,
their own
and more
money.
than that.
It would be nice if they were reimbursed for that.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay, we have some facilities.
Can I just ask, Mary, what was Carfagna's?
I'm sorry?
What was Carfagna's position on the replacement bill for HB 70?
I don't know his position right now because it was just introduced. This is brand new.
Fair.
And
I
he's,
thought you also had met with him.
well, that was before this new bill was put forth.
So you don't know what his position is?
No. I did ask him at the time, what are the plans to put the power back into the hands of the local people? And he said he really didn't know what the plan was. So that's as far as we got on that. It's a good question. Thank you.
We have a number of items for board approval. Under item 1, we have a lot of free facility requests. I know the board is always appreciative when they see our facilities being used. So everywhere from 4-H to Little League to softball to you name it, and we have a lot going on, including cardio drumming, which I hear is pretty important for some of our staff. So we do have a number of items for facility use that we have to bill back for. These are generally items that require custodial intervention or outside of the scope of what we would call a traditional school day. So we have items 1 through 2, and all of those links for your approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those. Thank you, Mr. Thompson, and thank you, Mrs. Fiesel, for your second. Were there any questions on any of them? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel? Yes. Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And Student Services.
I have one item for information, one for board approval, which is our CAT contract for the remainder of this calendar year. And then I have an item for information, just I think answering some of the questions that we had at the February board meeting. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. I won't highlight all of it to you. Was there anything else that I can help in understanding how that contract was put together?
We appreciate your going back and trying to work through that.
It was a good conversation. It was helpful for me to understand just the way that routing system was working. We've done it for so long. Wasn't continuing to ask those questions. So that was very helpful. And Martin is extremely great to work with. So that was very good. So I have just one item for approval, and that is the contract. And that would be just for the remainder of this calendar year. So it would be starting April 1 and going through December, end of December.
Okay, now what about the paper? Well, we'll go ahead and get a motion on the floor. I would entertain a motion then. Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. What about the months that were not covered? Was it not initially to have started at like in January? Or
The
February?
January and February were on the old contract because they did not send us the new 2019 contract. So we were still paying 2018 cost that we had agreed to last year. And then the new cost was on this, that matches this contract, was just for the month of March. So we were under the new contract for March, just that 1 month.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. Sure. Any other questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Personnel.
Under personnel, we have a number of items for board approval, no items for information at this time. We have a number of retirements and resignations. Those are always bittersweet, exciting for those who are retiring or resigning, but bittersweet because we lose some really valuable employees. So Sherry Murphy has announced her retirement. We have a number of resignations, one of which I would probably just highlight, and that's our last one. Mrs. Forney will officially be resigning as effective of May 31st, 2019. And we're grateful for her service. We're not getting rid of her, she's not exiting as quickly as maybe she would like, but we're going to keep her around just for a little bit of a transition. Item 3 is just the employment of a few different substitute teachers and supplementals, as well as some extracurricular activities. And then in item 4, we're authorizing for a treasurer intern. So with Judy's departure, we have someone that we have targeted to be our next treasurer. We have targeted Gary Hankins, who was a past principal in Mount Vernon City Schools, is now at Big Walnut, has always expressed a desire to move into the financial part of the school business, and has actually talked with Judy and I on several different occasions. And with this final announcing of her final retirement, we engaged in those conversations. What Gary has really left to complete is intern hours. He's finalizing some classes now, and in the state of Ohio, you have to have 300 intern hours with a certified treasurer to be able to get the official certification. He's going to do that starting in June, and then there will be a contract issued to him upon receipt of proper certification and licensure. Our hope is that that contract would be commence as of August 1st. So there's some things that have to happen between now and then. And then that kind of goes to number 6 here. So you can never in the school district be without a treasurer. And so when Judy resigns as of May 31st, we will hire her back as of June 1st on an interim basis to help Mr. Hankins finalize those intern hours and to really keep the district moving forward until we get that transition piece in place. So kind of a nice little roundabout of what's going on in the world of being a treasurer. The other thing that we're very grateful for and that you'll see coming up here in the future is that Mrs. Forney is going to be willing to stay on in a mentoring capacity during that first year. And so that's really important to all involved, including Mr. Hankins, who is very thankful for just that experience to be able to kind of start into a new line of work. So those 6 items for your approval.
Okay, thank you for explaining all of that. Do I have a motion to approve those items?
I will defer to you.
So moved.
I will
Thank you,
second.
Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hagan. Were there any questions?
The only question I have, and I apologize for not asking earlier, volunteers Kurt Holland. I'm making an assumption it's probably volleyball, but do we, it just is strict volunteer, do we?
I was making the assumption it was track, but I could be wrong.
Since we're dealing with Jack.
Well, I know he played volleyball in school, so that's kind of why I thought maybe.
You think
it
maybe
was
for the
volleyball.
boys team? At first I went to girls volleyball
Yes. Yeah,
and
no.
realized, so
For boys.
Could be.
I'm not familiar with that.
Did you want to hold off on that?
No, that's fine. He's a great young man. I just was
Was
looking for
curious.
clarification.
Maybe you could let us
I
know.
could try to clarify that for you.
Any other questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Now we have some classified staff.
Under classified staff, we have no items for information, one item for board approval tonight, it's substitute employment. Again, substitute positions, we have 3 there to approve in the classified staff section.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve that one item with 3 individuals.
I'll be glad to make
Thank
the
you,
motion.
Mrs. Fiesel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. And I think we're to our building tour.
So what we'd like to do is, we'd like to do our building tour first. We do have an executive session scheduled after the building tour, and that will be for employment, and it'll also be for negotiations. So those 2 items will be things we'll discuss in executive session. But I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Thompson, who does have a picture I think you want to show us. And it's still light out. We weren't sure if it would be light or not. But we might start with a parking lot here at Columbia to take a look at some of our challenges, and then we'll come back inside and do a building tour.
So the thought exchange, that was the most recent thought exchange that had the community and anybody who participated talk about facilities, be able to share their thoughts about it. For Columbia, there were a variety of thoughts that were given. The 3 that probably gained the most traction, number 1 was dealt with our parking in our pickup process, but our parking lot. Number 2 dealt with our classroom space for specials, in particular music and art. As you'll see on the building tour, they do not have traditional classrooms. You can kind of notice on the walls here that this also serves not only for PE, but it also serves for music. And then Mrs. Reardon, if you can wave to us, please. Mrs. Reardon was nice enough to be able to stay around so that you can see what our art space looks like here at Columbia. But that was number 2. And then number 3, and not necessarily in any particular order, this may have actually been number 1, but it was one of the top 3, dealt with just the safety and security of coming in the front door and then the office being quite a ways away from that front door. So those are, you'll see the building, and we'll talk about some different things in and out of the building, but those were the 3 primary areas of focus from the outcome of the thought exchange. So I'm going to go and just show you here, because I wasn't sure what it was going to look like daylight-wise. This is our, I'm going to move, but if you look here on any given day, cars will start to come right out here and line up, sometimes as early as 2:30 for a 3:30 dismissal, because they want that prime spot, I'm guessing. But we have, our staff parking here. We've got cars sometimes back here, Columbus Road. Cars will kind of be out on Columbus Road a little bit. Of course, in the front we have, that's supposed to be just for buses to come pick up our students. But this, we've tried as much as we can to make 2 lanes. As much as we've tried, it ends up turning into more than that. So we've got that. Then you'll notice you can kind of see it here actually, but I think it's going to move on. This makes me a little bit uncomfortable, seeing parents and students having to go in through in amongst the cars. The parents are kind of used to this by now, and they know that our teachers do a great job of making sure that, first of all, our students go with who they're supposed to go with, and then making sure that it is safe getting across. But the reason they're going across here is South Vernon United Methodist Church, which is right over here. A lot of people will park in this area back here in their parking lot, and I'm grateful that they allow us to do so. But this is kind of our parking or pickup situation. And then Mr. Boland has volunteered for us, kind of voluntold, but he did volunteer. He kind of works, not only is he our gifted intervention specialist, but at the end of the day, he also serves as our kind of traffic coordinator to make sure that as students are getting across, he's making them aware of when they can cross along the way. So I just wanted you to see what that looked like. If we have enough daylight here, I might have you put your jackets on, and we'll just walk outside to show you one thing before we go in the building. But I did want to show you just a aerial, just a visual here of our property. You'll notice with the Harp Ohio Trail, and then you have Pittsburgh Avenue here and Columbus Road. And this goes back to the OSU Extension Office, but this is pretty much the Columbia property for the Mount Vernon City Schools, with the exception of you have South Vernon United Methodist. But then you have this plot of land right here. Our playground is pretty large, and it is a blessing to have that much land for our students to be able to play on. It does pose a little bit of a challenge for our teachers, I will say, in terms of monitoring that space, because if you can think about it, our playground goes all the way around here. Right now there's a pavilion here, but those kiddos can be all the way over here, they can be all the way over here, and it's a lot of ground to cover. So we don't lack in green space, which is a really neat thing. But it also provides an opportunity that maybe we could get creative with some of the things that we use our space for. So if this is Columbus Road and we're coming in this pickup loop, if you're parked here, you're not getting out until this pickup process is over. There's no way you're getting out. But you're gonna come in here, you're gonna come around, you're gonna pick up your kiddo, and you're gonna come this way if you're in that loop. Now we have a pretty large percentage of parents who pick up their kids. And so there's no way we can fit all the cars in here. So that's where parking happens here. Parking happens in places on the other side of the street that I would probably prefer they don't happen. But we have parking here. We have people that'll come up here, and when it's not too muddy or if it's not snowy, they'll park in here in the grass, and then they will walk kind of through the traffic to get over in this area. This area outlined here is owned by the city of Mount Vernon. I don't know I'm not trying to speak for the city of Mount Vernon, but something just to keep in the back of your minds. If this potentially could be available to us, I would love to see a potential way for access point off of Pittsburgh Avenue onto school grounds if possible. I think there's a fence here for our playground that goes all the way over here, and then it follows this line. I would like to see the playground stop at the equipment, the fence stop, turn, and go this way, which would cut our playground down a little bit, but we still have a lot of room. And I would love to see this area potentially be a part of and I don't know what that would look like. Probably want to have someone a lot smarter than me kind of design it. But you could have this area along with this and potentially this area as something that we could use for our parking and potential adjustment to our pickup and drop-off process. So before we stepped outside and before we go through the building, I just wanted you to kind of get a picture of what that looks like. Ms. Fiesel.
If I could ask two questions. So the area that's highlighted, what space is that? How much area?
It's 0.36 acre.
And nothing has ever been on that site? It's always been green space?
I can't say that nothing has been.
Homes used to be on it. Okay.
It got cleared out during the development of aerial foundation, right?
Okay,
Right.
so that's very interesting to know.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly what the traffic flow could look like. I just think it would make a really big difference if we could somehow address something beyond what we have here.
So as we go on our tour, this is an old picture, an old Google map picture. There was quite a renovation to the playground, almost $100,000 renovation out there that we'll get a chance to take a quick look at. So is there a way you'd like us to?
Yeah, so
Question before we go out. A, very creative on the parking. I like the thought process. And two, you have so much green space to cover. Typically, how many teachers do you need to send out on a recess to make sure those kids are safe?
we usually have 3 teachers that are out there. We try and have one on this zone, one in the middle, and one over here as much as possible so that we're keeping eyes as much as we can on what is going on. So yeah.
I have a question, Steve. What percentage of walkers do you have, kids that actually stop?
Hey, I get some of his emails.
I apologize. I apologize. You're both very nice looking guys.
Well, hey, thank you.
Anyway, what percentage, Andrew, do you have of children who are walkers? Do you have any that have to cross over Columbus Road?
We do. No, we request that families come and pick them up.
Okay.
Just a decision that we've made. We don't usually, we don't send kids off on their own unless we have an actual call from a parent that they're living down here and they have permission to go that way. But we do have, we have students that live across the street or down Columbus Road a little ways. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, and I was always worried about the children crossing.
That being said, let me bring this up. There's a crosswalk right here. There's no crosswalk over this way. If you make the crosswalk there and turn left, that's fine, because there's a sidewalk. You make the crosswalk and turn right, there's no sidewalk there. So we have kids that are trying to get there, and they're with parents, hopefully, but they are darting across the street because of not wanting to go here and then cross someone else's property and that kind of thing. So that is definitely a concern that we have.
Thank you.
So is this something we could bring up when we meet with, have our joint meeting regarding how to add a crosswalk or?
Is this all city?
I'm sorry?
Is this city limits? No. Okay, I didn't think so.
Is this building city? No.
Well, your premises. County.
So
But
the city owns the
Mount Vernon
property?
City owns this.
That property right there.
Even though so the line is just somewhere right there?
I believe
Maybe it was
during the
annexed.
annexation of the park,
Right.
when that was changed. Because South Vernon is county as well, I'm pretty sure.
And Pittsburgh Avenue is city or
When
county?
When part of the park was annexed, that's when part of it changed from city to county to city.
Okay, so Pittsburgh Avenue now, what would that be? City?
I would guess on the Mount Vernon side of Pittsburgh Avenue is city. But part of that's still in the county because the sheriff monitors part of the park. And the city monitors the bottom of the park, the old park, down the lakes. So there's funny lines there, but I'm not exactly sure.
That would be good, I think, to, find the different areas, whether it's city or county. So one of the things that I noticed, when the children are exiting this door and the front door, or the front door is just busing?
Front doors, bussers, walkers, or not walkers, pick up, exit this door.
And so students are going through cars to get to the church. So is there room that you could walk around?
When we get outside, if it's okay, I know it's cold, so I won't keep you out there very long, but I'm gonna show you a couple things outside. I was hoping we'd have a little
wanted the
bit,
questions in here.
I was hoping we'd have a little bit of daylight. Can I bring up just one other piece here?
Could I ask one other question?
Yeah.
You mentioned if we ask for a crosswalk further south, but there's no sidewalk, so does that really solve a problem?
No, that's the thing, is it?
Yeah, no, it doesn't really
Right, it
solve.
doesn't really solve a problem, I don't think. Right. Yeah. One last piece here is just, I know you can see it, but we have a lot of space. So while we are very appreciative of having a large playground, and our kids like having a large playground, there's room here if we decided to get creative in certain things. There's room on this property. So, and I would also say that Mount Vernon, when you think about schools that are highly trafficked by, your Mount Vernon High School, Mount Vernon Middle School are probably going to be your two most buildings that people go to, right? But you have to intentionally go to them. You're either going to go up there by the entrance to the Career Center in the high school, or you're going to go down on Yellow Jacket Drive. But it's not like everybody is going right past those buildings. Plus, the other buildings are very residential and that kind of thing. Twin Oak, as beautiful as it is, kind of got to turn your head to look back at it. I would make the argument that I feel like this is a very highly trafficked road coming into Mount Vernon. This, for many, is one of the first buildings that they see that represent Mount Vernon City Schools. Even if you turn on Parent Street, you can see it here. So just keep that in the back of your mind as I mention a couple things as we walk outside, because you may think I'm kind of crazy. But I just wanted to say that. So we're going to walk outside, then we're going to come in the front entrance, and then we'll go on our tour. All right? Thank you.